Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening to another episode of Dan Tony Sports. My name is Dan, joined by Dan O'Shea. Actually, I'm Dan Snyder, joined by Dan O'Shea. Dan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well. Excited for this episode, excited for playoffs, and excited for the lottery.
Oh, yes. Unfortunately, Tony couldn't be here with us to join in our excitement, but he will be back next week. So we can look forward to that. But tonight we are going to talk about NHL playoffs, the NBA draft lottery, and the NBA playoffs. But first, like always, we're going to start with our pigskin poetry. Christian, this is your year, but you look like a fool compared to your peers. Christian, drafted in round number 2, but as of right now, nobody believes in you. Christian, where did things go wrong? People sang your praises like it was a song. Christian, has the truth been revealed? Are you so bad you'll never see the field? Christian, will you be a bust? The rest of your draft class left you in the dust. Christian, will this be the end? It's just a matter of time until you're in Cleveland, my friend. Christian. That, of course, is about Christian Hackenberg. Probably going to go down as one of the dumbest picks the Jets have ever made. Talented kid out of Penn State for the first 2 years, and then he just fell by the wayside and somehow still got drafted in the top 2 rounds.
It was a nonsense pick. It made no sense. There's no reason to waste a second rounder on that.
Right.
Even if he becomes, something somehow, you draft based on, ADP and who the best player available is, and he was, expected to go. I think his average draft position was like 4th round, 5th round at most, and
it depends.
There were so many better picks ahead of him.
A lot of people had him graded as a first-round pick at the beginning of the college season, just before he got drafted. A lot of people were looking at him as being the number 1 overall draft pick
until
he was terrible. Until he threw 3 interceptions at Northwestern.
And I get the arguments, and I'm hoping maybe they're right that it was just a change of system that completely threw him off, and with going back to his familiar system that he could do something. But I'm not holding out hope, and I would not draft someone based on that assumption in the second round. You can do that in the 4th and later rounds. That's when you do the gambles of high potential, high risk guys. You don't really do that in the first 3 rounds. You want the best value, and he wasn't it. So whatever, though, that's not what we're talking about today.
No, it's very soon it will be, but not today. Tonight we are going to be talking NHL playoffs, NBA draft lottery, NBA playoffs. We're going to start in the NHL. So we have 2 series currently, the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. In the East, we have the Ottawa Senators and the Pittsburgh, I almost said Steelers. That's football. It's the Pittsburgh Penguins. And in the West, we have, I can't believe I'm saying this, Nashville in the West,
Makes sense.
taking on perennial playoff contender powerhouse, the Anaheim Ducks, who, for as long as I've been alive and watching hockey, you can never count them. They're like the Penguins. You can never count them out. So where do you want to start? You want to start East or West?
Let's start East.
Okay, we're going to start in the East. My favorite player in the NHL currently, not my favorite player of all time, that's Teemu Selanne, the Finnish Flash. Loved him. My favorite player in the NHL right now is Erik Karlsson, and he is playing lights out.
He absolutely is. The Senators, as a whole, are playing a lot better than anyone predicted. Once the Rangers beat the Habs, I certainly thought that the Rangers should have been able to beat the Senators. Won't get into it, but I blame a lot of that loss on the coaching staff of the Rangers.
Oh, you can get into it. It's relevant.
Well,
we're talking about how the teams got here, so
yeah,
let's talk about the.
I'm extremely frustrated with Alain Vigneault. I think he's got a strategy that only works in the regular season, and then he gets dominated in the postseason. Maybe not right away, but
doesn't he have coordinators who are supposed to do that for him? Who are supposed to control that type of stuff? Because like in the
well, he's supposed to oversee everything. So if one of his coordinators is bust, then he should be addressing that. The power play coach certainly has to go. Worst power play in the playoffs. Worst, maybe not the worst in the NHL, but probably pretty close to it. Certainly bottom half. How hard is it to score? They couldn't score on a 5-on-3. Are you kidding me? Or I think they had or maybe it wasn't a 5-on-3, but maybe it was like a 4-minute double minor on the Senators. You have 4 minutes with an extra guy and you can't score? That's ridiculous. And it's not like that's a fluke. They never score on the power play because they're non-coordinated. They pass too much on the power play and they don't just get the puck to the net. It's the simplest concept in the world. The more shots you take on the goal, the more likely you're going to score. And
I mean, you're playing, one of the best defensive units left in the playoffs besides the Penguins and the Senators. You're not going to score on them if you're not taking risks. That's one of the issues.
Carlson, absolutely helped shut down the Rangers, but I think AV just got out-coached. He couldn't adjust once the first period was over, and the Senators would adjust and try and counter the things that they had gone into the game, that the Rangers had gone into the game doing. And then he would just keep doing the same thing, even though it clearly wasn't working, instead of trying to switch things up. And he constantly would just rely on old players, and he doesn't hold them accountable. He takes out young guys. God forbid you put Jasper Fast in when it's a key moment in the game, even though he's been scoring like crazy and should probably be earning, a higher spot on the line. God forbid you keep Brady Shea in at a key moment in the game when you might need someone fast on defense who can make passes. No, let's keep Stalin, who,
Not Joseph Stalin.
No, let's keep, old, slow Stahl and watch him get burned, absolutely burned. Even though the Rangers should be the faster team, you had the Senators skating all around us because you've got, old, slow defensemen, and then it's just them against Lundqvist. And, yeah, Lundqvist is usually pretty lights out, but he occasionally, gives up some 60 shots. Goals and occasionally can't be Superman. So I put a lot of that on the coaching staff.
Okay, yeah, and that's a fair assessment. The one thing that I just couldn't believe that the Rangers couldn't close it out, games 4 and 5, the Senators just looked like they had absolutely no energy left. They looked like they had just given all they had in games 1 and 2, and then, were competitive in game 3. They were, still up to the task, but 4 and 5, they just looked dead.
Yeah, and then the Rangers, you don't capitalize on that. You don't, and then, you're putting Tanner Glass in for his toughness, and then just because it's on Ottawa's home ice and you don't want to ramp the crowd up too much, you don't let him, go actually fight. What's the point of that? Put in a skill player like Bunevich then, and why do you care so much about the crowd? Maybe you should worry about getting your own guys amped up, since everyone's going to be cheering like crazy for the other team anyway, since it's playoffs. You want your own guys to get into it, and nothing really helps that quite like a good fight or some good hits. And I as I said, Tanner Glass had been proving me wrong in the playoffs, but he came back down to earth toward the end of that series, and showed why all he really is an enforcer and should be fourth line at best, and maybe not even that.
Right. You just made the point about how it seemed like they were afraid to cause an issue in Montreal. That
was Ottawa.
Or not Montreal, yeah. Ottawa. Some
Been
Canadian
in Canada
city.
a lot, yeah.
Some Canadian city. But you're right. Why do they care? Especially coming from New York. Shouldn't you embrace the hate?
Right.
You're part of the biggest market in the world. The only other market that can say we're as big as London.
Yeah, and it's hockey in Canada. If they show any sign of life, the crowd's going to be crazy into it. It's trying to keep the crowd out of it is a dumb idea in playoffs. You're not going to be able to. Try and keep your guys into it and bet on your guys over their guys and screw the crowd.
If you don't want to hear, the crowd booing you, put in earplugs.
Yeah.
And just play your game.
Yeah. And I get, there's the extra man with the crowd and stuff, but you need to get your players hyped too. And the Rangers came after 2 awesome victories, came into Game 3 slow, and then, kind of got back a little bit in Game 3 before they lost, and then came into 4 slow, and then went back home and showed no signs of life.
The entire game, Game 4 and 5, was just complete slop.
Yeah.
It looked like no one knew fundamentals of hockey.
Exactly.
No one knew how. They looked like the exact reason I don't want my kids, when I have kids, to play soccer. I don't want to watch a bunch of sloppy kids running around trying to kick a ball. Mm-hmm. I don't want to watch a bunch of sloppy millionaires.
5 and 6, but yeah.
Yeah, 5 and 6. I don't want to watch a bunch of sloppy millionaires skating around missing a puck.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't playoff quality. I can understand if the Rangers are like, listen, we went to a Game 7 where, against a really tough Montreal team. We're tired. But that's why they're not here anymore. Mm-hmm. That's why they're not in the playoffs anymore.
And, they certainly didn't look tired in Games 3 and 4 and looked like, they could outskate Ottawa all day. And then
Erik Karlsson. Erik Karlsson.
Well, yeah, but that and just, Ottawa getting wise to their strategy and the Rangers not changing anything and just relying on old fogies instead of, the young talent you have, because there's so much talent on that team, and you're going to put in these old, decrepit players and then not even hold them accountable, but God forbid Shea makes a single mistake, he barely sees the ice. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's why I'm done with AV, because he's that typical coach that can't rely on a young guy no matter what, even if the young guy's proved himself. And Shea has absolutely proved himself worthy of seeing a ton of ice time. He was showing flashes of it last year, and this year he absolutely showed that he deserves to be, our top defenseman. I
mean, I hate to be the what's the word? The stick in the mud. But when stuff like that happens, he's going to be looking for a new home soon. If you don't get the time that you think you deserve.
Oh, yeah.
Don't be surprised if he's not in New York past his contract.
Right.
But let's get you out of this depression. Yeah. Let's go over to another depressing topic, and that was the series between the Senators. Not the Senators. The Capitals, the Penguins.
Oh,
series
Penguins.
Between the Capitals
and
the Penguins.
That was a great series to watch from an outside perspective, other than my hatred of the Penguins and my hatred of the Capitals. Because they're both fun to hate. You had that questionable hit on Ovechkin that injured him and might have played a part in the rest of the series. No, that was. Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry, I'm mistaking the earlier. That was from the first series. Yeah. Crosby got
whacked.
Got hit. Yeah, with the concussion.
Which I just want to talk about that really quickly. That's not good, because he's missed a lot of time due to concussions.
With concussions, yeah, and I don't know what the protocol is in the NHL, but he seemed to get back into the games pretty quickly. Football, he
missed 3 games.
No, not in the series. Huh? He didn't miss 3. He missed 1, I think.
He missed at least 2.
I thought he went out when the hit happened in that game, and then I think he missed the next game, and I thought he was back after that.
Oh, maybe.
I'm not sure. I'm wrong. Because it seemed like too short. That's what I was confused by, because it seemed like it was a very quick turnaround, whereas the NFL, they keep them out until
I don't know,
at least a week.
Did you see that hit that Bud Dupree put on Matt Moore in the playoffs? He got up and he was back in the next play.
That's true.
But it was a great series. Went to 7 games.